right, so yes, the title of this talk is Self-Absorbed. It's all about me. It's all about me. And the theme for this month is Hearts of Service. Hearts of Service, and the value, the spiritual value that we are living this month is love as community service. We dedicate our time, talent, treasure, and expertise to the healthy and joyful evolution of our spiritual community, the community in which we live, and the greater community of the world. So that is what we are about. And the book for this month is called Doing Good Better. Doing Good Better. And as we talked about last week when we were talking about kindness, that study that they did, when we're 18 months old, we are helping already. They did a study and, they had a person who was hanging things up on the line, and when they dropped the clothespin, the 18-month-old came over and picked up the clothespin for them and gave it to them. When I was at Sue Stedger isn't here today because her daughter's getting married this afternoon, and so we had the rehearsal dinner yesterday, and there was the mom with the flower girl and the ring bearer, and she was talking about. I told them about that study, and she said her 5-year-old always wants to help. And so when she's cleaning the bathroom, he always says, "How can I help?" And so she gives him a wipe and puts him in the bathtub, and he cleans the bathtub. And, it's good because then we're learning, we're part of the process of keeping everything clean and neat, and that we're a necessary part of the whole activity of life that's unfolding. That each of us has a unique contribution to make, and it's important that we make it. So we had wonderful examples of service last week when people came with their boats, whether it was a rowboat, bless you, Rich. Whoa, bless you again. Okay, that's health and money. One more, you get love. Okay. Okay, at least that's what they said in Guatemala when I was there. We saw people with their boats, their monster trucks. I always wondered what those things were good for. Now I know. People stepping up to save each other. I don't know if you saw that movie Dunkirk. And that was about, all these men trapped on this beach in France with the German invasion. And there were 400,000 of them there. And the government was hoping to save 35,000. They could only spare enough boats to possibly save 35,000. And so all of these people came out in their pleasure boats, in their fishing boats, and everything, and they saved over 300,000 of those men, one little boat at a time. And it's a great movie about that story and about what was going on at that time. So it's about people stepping up when there's a need, because we can't rely on the government. People were calling 911, they were calling the sheriff, they were calling, and they couldn't get an answer because they were totally overwhelmed. They have huge call centers, they were totally overwhelmed. And so then people just came by on a boat and said, "Do you need some help?" "Yep, I do." So that was wonderful to see that people are having that shared sense of community. And the thing is, when that kind of thing happens, nobody's asking what your political party is. Nobody's asking what your religion is. Nobody is asking what your sexual orientation is. It's all community. It's all humanity. It's all being a realization of our oneness. So that's a wonderful example for us. Now, we've all probably heard the term do-gooder. And that has a negative connotation because it's really about people who are on the outside of a situation looking in and think they know what's best. And so they come in and do something, whether or not they've involved the people who were there, whether they wanted it or not. And that's part of what William McCaskill, who wrote this book, is talking about. He specifically talks about a thing called the play pump. He discovered this idea. He had been in Africa and seen women standing in line waiting for water. And he thought, he saw this guy who had invented this merry-go-round, a playground merry-go-round that pumped water. And he thought, great idea. So he bought the patent. They made some improvements because he was an engineer. And he started promoting the idea of putting in these pumps where the kids would play and be pumping water at the same time, and they'd have a storage tank and they could pump the water, and then people could just come and get the water. It was a great idea. And so it got a lot of support. Colgate-Palmolive donated to it. The World Bank awarded it some funds. The CEO of AOL awarded some funds. All these different organizations, there were rock stars who had concerts supporting this idea. There were a few problems with it, however. When you are in a playground on a merry-go-round, you run, and then you jump on it and you go around without having to push it anymore, right? Not this one. You had to keep pushing. So what happened was the kids got really tired of pushing that thing because they couldn't, it wasn't just push and jump on. They had to keep pushing. And I thought, well, this ain't no fun. And so the women ended up pushing it. But the problem was that it wasn't pumping as much water as the old hand pump they used to have. The hand pump pumped five times as much water as this thing did. And it was put into all of these locations where people didn't even ask for it. They didn't want it, and it got put in there anyway, and they all wanted to go back to their old hand pump because it was much more efficient, and they weren't having to run around in circles. So that was a situation where somebody had an idea that they thought was really good, but they didn't talk to the people who were going to be the recipients of this good as to whether it was going to work or not. So he did another study, talks about another study where there was in Kenya, a lot of kids drop out of school, or they have really high absentee rates. So they thought, okay, maybe they don't have enough textbooks, so we'll give them more textbooks. So they had fundraisers, and they got textbooks, and they gave them all textbooks. That didn't do it. So then they thought, flip charts. We'll give them flip charts. That's what they need, flip charts. So they got them flip charts. Nope, that wasn't it. They said with smaller class sizes, more teachers. So they had more teachers, smaller class size. That wasn't working either. So finally they were talking to the World Bank, and they said, have you tried deworming the children? I said, no. So it turns out that there's a bunch of drugs that were developed in the 50s, so they're off patent now, so you can just buy them over the counter. And they had the teachers administer these pills to the children to get rid of the worms. And it turns out that the worms caused them to have anemia, and it caused them to have bowel obstructions. It caused them to have diminished immune systems, which made it more likely that they get malaria and other diseases. And so when they got rid of the worms, absenteeism dropped, the kids were engaged, and it was a strike. The results were striking. They never would have thought that could make such a difference, and it did. And it made a difference even 10 years later. The kids who had been dewormed versus the kids who hadn't, they were working more hours, they were making more money, they were contributing more to the community, and their income was contributing tax revenues, which paid for the program. So this is a situation where someone who understood what might be the problem gave them the information, they tried it out, and it worked. So it's about having an assessment of what works. McCaskill talks about effective altruism. effective altruism. And he has he says, this is an honest and impartial attempt to work out what's best for the world and a commitment to do what's best, whatever that turns out to be. Now, it might not be something we want to do. Maybe deworming children was not something that called to us. But if it's the highest and greatest good, let's do it. That's essentially what he's saying. So what he does is he has 5 questions to determine the effectiveness of a benefit for someone. For this effective altruism. First one is, how many people benefit by how much? How many people benefit by how much? Is this the most effective thing I can do? Is this the most effective thing I can do? Is this area neglected? Is nobody else addressing this particular problem? What would have happened otherwise? If I wasn't supporting this particular thing, what would happen? And what are the chances of success, and how good would success be? What are the chances of success, and how good would success be? So it's not about us making ourselves feel good or making ourselves feel important. It's about what will do the most good. What will do the most good. Gary, would you like a drink of water or something? Okay. All right. So it's about, doing the best thing we can for the people who need it most. And so he has formulas in here for determining what's the best. Now, I have to say, I love metrics as much as the next person. But I think also, when we talk about a heart for service, we also need to be called to what calls our heart. But we have to be in touch with the person or persons that we're helping to see what it is that they need. Because we're not just going to go dump things on them like we have right now, this interfaith food ministry, and they're giving us a list of the foods that we need. Maybe they don't need marshmallows. And we think, wouldn't it be fun for them to have marshmallows? Well, maybe not. Maybe they need something tuna fish. Maybe they need something high protein, So it's about providing what is really needed. And so we have this list of things that are needed, so we can check that out and go down to grocery outlet and get it. And lots of it. The other thing is that we can see that there are charities that we know a lot of people are donating to. And maybe we can find something that is a little more obscure that people are trying to raise money for. But we donate as a board of trustees of this community every month. Most fun we have is figuring out who to donate to. And we donate to the Care Crisis Nursery, which helps moms and dads who are in crisis when they just are going crazy, and instead of, dumping the kids or beating the kids, they drop the kids off and they have a wonderful day, and the parent gets that break that they need to get their perspective back. And we have the diaper project that we donate to, because when your finances are tight, sometimes you can't afford diapers. And that's a big need in Houston right now. A lot of people are needing diapers for their kids. We also, help the community against domestic violence, and we have lots of things here. And I love donating to local things because we can see the results. We can know the people that are involved and see the dedication of the people and see the results. So for me, doing good better is doing it locally where we can see who's getting it and what they're doing with it. So I know I'm going to be doing the wagon walk too. And So if you want to sponsor me, you can see me after the service, because they get donations by, for how many laps I do. And considering the shape I'm in, it's not going to be a lot, but it will be what I can. So you're not going to lose a lot of money. But if you want to contribute, I would be happy to take your support. But we can also see, the thing that happened in Houston is terrible. And they're having terrible floods in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. That's impacting 40 million people. 40 million people. And 1,200 people have died, and that's probably a low number. And so when we see who's going to get who's going to get help the most, the infrastructure for assistance is much more robust here in the United States than it is in Nepal and Bangladesh and India. A lot of those people drown because they've never learned to swim. They don't have swimming pools. They don't have swimming lessons. Nobody learns to swim. And so, we don't even think about that kind of thing. So, I want to donate to Houston, and I also want to see how I can support the folks in Bangladesh, because 40 million is a really big number. So that's the thing. We think about, what can we do? Ernest Holmes says, we should give of ourselves in love and service to others in a spirit of generosity and good fellowship. To refuse to give is to refuse to receive, for everything moves in circles. Real giving is the givingness of the self. A kind word, a thoughtful act, perhaps just a smile, can help lighten the burdens of others. So it is about remembering that we are in community, that we're all in this together. And it's, I, me, mine. Of course, we always take care of ourselves first, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, we are no good to anybody else. But we also have to not get carried away with that. So we are realizing that we're also connected to everyone else, and that we are called to help by our nature. And so we listen to and answer that call to help. As Dave mentioned, there's going to be that opportunity to clean up the highway. And you may think, well, how much fun is that, picking up cigarette butts and bottles thrown off and beer cans and da-da-da-da-da. And it is lots of fun. Because the thing is, what you're doing is you are contributing to beauty and order in our community. You are bringing that consciousness of beauty and order to our community. Same thing with the Circle River cleanup. Picking up the cans and the stuff that's out there on the river. Same thing. You're contributing to the beauty and the order of this environment. We are being good stewards of the earth, good stewards of our community, recognizing that, we're the ones we've been waiting for. Lily Tomlin has this quote. She said, I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that, and then I realized I was somebody. So the somebody who can do something about it is us. The somebody who can do something about it is us. So, I don't know if you've heard of Joel Goldsmith. Is a writer, a Christian writer. He's very big in the unity movement, and we also read him as part of our practitioner studies. And he says, there is a reward that comes in the feeling of having served one's fellow man, or having served God in service to one's fellow man. But we're apt to forget that the service we perform for each other is not really for each other at all. In serving each other, we are serving the Christ. We are serving God And it makes no difference whether we're supporting our family or contributing to the Red Cross. We're not doing it unto human beings. We are doing it unto the Christ of their being. That is, the presence of God in them. That's what a Christed person is. It's the presence of God, which is in all of us. We are all Christed beings. We are serving God, and it makes no difference whether we're supporting our family. Yes. You are only serving in the manner of the Christ when you understand that any service you give to your fellow man is really your devotion to God made manifest. And I would say it's really your devotion to life made manifest. It's really your devotion to the beauty, the order, the peace, the love, the joy, the harmony. And when we talked about, it being all about me, would you, Marty, would you put up that other slide? There's an interesting thought. So, when we're giving to someone else, we're giving of ourselves, to ourselves, really, to the God in each other, to the oneness we recognize in each other. There was another YouTube or video that someone sent me that was a homeless guy sitting on a cement in front of a big building of some kind, looked like a big government building of some kind. There's people walking by. And he's got a little sign that says, "I'm blind, please give." And he's got a little cup. And an occasional person comes and throws something in. Then these legs come by, and somebody grabs his sign, and he sort of touches her shoes as she's writing something on his sign. And she puts the sign out again and walks off. And then all of these people start plunking in money into his cup. So finally, later in the day, she comes by again. He feels the feet, and he said, "What did you write on my sign?" And it said, "Today is a beautiful day, and I can't see it." So, what touches our heart is where we serve. What touches our heart is where we serve. And we serve our community, we serve life, and we serve the presence of that unifying energy of life itself. And so let's say our affirmation this week. As I serve others, I am serving Spirit. As I serve others, I am serving Spirit. As I serve others, I am serving Spirit. And so it is.